Hey everybody, it's Jay. So I've got some free time today and I wanted to just go quickly over NubesGen, which we talked about on this past show with Julian Dubois. And I don't want to dilly-dally. I want to do this quickly because that's one of the cool things that NubesGen really does is help you get started with all of this quickly. So what does it do? It lets you kickstart your project on Azure in minutes. So it helps generate Terraform templates and GitHub actions for your project. You can do it all right here from the website, or you can use a CLI. So what I've got to actually deploy with is this really basic demo app. You can go to my GitHub, github.com/jdestro. You can see demo-app. And to actually use it, we're going to go ahead and copy. We're going to go here into VS Code because to start using NubesGen, we'll just create a new folder, new one, new two, cool. So we'll go in here, we'll select the repository location. And so to start working with NubesGen, we're going to need an actual thing to deploy with it. And to look at this real quick, it's just a very simple express hello world. I like to use this when I'm just demoing basics. I think it's really easy to work with. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to drop this right here. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through using NubesGen to actually configure a few things. So the first thing we want to do is go to the NubesGen website, and you'll want to make sure you have the GitHub repo ready. You're going to want to make sure that you've got an Azure account because that's what this is all going to do. It's going to create a Terraform template, GitHub action, and deploy it over to your Azure account. So I'm going to just call this demo. You want to use something that's unique. So demo app JA-Gourd 01. I think that's an easy one to go with. I'll just call it demo app JA-Gourd 01. Let's go with something that's just a slug. You can customize this the way you need. So we have to make a decision. Do we want a web app? Do we want a serverless deployment? Do we want the Azure Spring Cloud if we're using Java? And then what we can do is actually look at the different types of web application deployments we can do, the different frameworks. This is just simple Node.js. However, I do have a Docker file, and if I wanted to deploy it via Docker, it can build it into a container. But for today, let's just use Node.js. So now it gives you these different options on what size of application do you want to work with. Free, basic, standard. I'm just going to use basic. Okay. Then we get to the part where we can have some add-ons. If I want a database like Azure SQL, MySQL, PostgreSQL, we can do that. If we want application insights for monitoring, we can go ahead and check that. If we want to store our secrets in Key Vault, it'll create an account from us there. Blob storage, Redis cache for key value storage, or MongoDB. So what we're going to do is we're also going to check add GitOps. And add GitOps, that's going to give us the ability to be able to just push and deploy what we have. And so the documentation has a really easy way to get started. So let's go to new terminal. And you can just log in with your Azure account using AZ login. I've got that already done. I can go here, and there's this curl bash that we can use to go ahead and install the requirements. So what it's going to do, it's going to set up GitOps with NubesGen by configuring your GitOps. By checking your Azure CLI, it's going to make sure that your service principal for using a resource group, or I should say a service principal for actually creating all these resources via Terraform. So it'll go ahead, create the resource group. You can see it'll log me into GitHub. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go back here to the NubesGen site, and I'm going to download the configuration files into this directory. So I can just copy it with curl, copy this, and I'll just open up another terminal. And I'm just going to run this. And what it's going to do is it's going to grab the package that was generated, because you can just download the config files directly if you want to. And you don't need to use GitOps, but I think it's a great way of actually doing deploy, because you basically push your repository and then push to your repository, whether it's a branch or you're merging into your main branch. And you have the ability to just have your infrastructure built and your deployment of your code done every single time, just by doing a git push. And that's really the strength of all of this. So as you can see, I went ahead, I got that all installed. And if we take a look now, we have a couple of new directories that were created. We've got this Terraform directory, and we'll take a look at the main TF, and we'll see we've got our everything kind of configured here. It's the environment that we need, dev, the resource that we're going to be creating, and all of that is in this variable. So we can go into the variable file. We'll see that there's some strings that are filled out, where the default location it's going to be deployed to, all that stuff. So we've got that all configured. Let's go back and see. Our GitOps is all taken care of. It's stored my credentials locally, and now I'm ready to deploy it, right? So what do we do to deploy it? Let's go back over to the GitOps Quickstart, and we can now push the NubesGen code with our GitOps configuration to a branch. So what can we do? Let's go ahead and create this right here. We can just copy, and we're just going to commit it to main. Normally what you would want to do is, before you install any of this stuff, you want to create a new branch, and within that branch you're going to want to use that to do some basic error checking of whatever changes you're making. But because this is a demo, I'm just going to go ahead and hit. So let's go ahead, and what happens is it created all the requirements on the GitHub side by adding it, merging it over, and pushing it. So let's go ahead and take a look here. And we can see there's my commit, and we'll take a look in actions. And okay, why didn't it actually commit yet? Because let's take a look at the GitHub GitOps file. It is right now configured to push to branches with env dash only, and we're using main. So I'm just going to go ahead and change it to main. Okay, so I can just go over here, add it, commit it, it deploys. Cool. So let's sync those changes. We'll go over here, take a look. Yep, there we are. Now branches main. So let's go over to actions. And what we can see, main deploys. Now it's actually starting up, running the GitHub action. And that's going to create a build environment. So it sets up a job. Ooh, so let's see what happened. Why did it not work? Cache not run, MPICI. Okay. The existing package.lock. All right, let's take a look at what was going on and why it's broken. Package.json. Yeah, so it's there. Let's see. npm build. Ooh. Let's see. Let's take a look at that package.json. Yeah, I mean, that's all there. npm. Oh, npm install. So npm install. npm start. Okay, so it works. Let's take a look at why it didn't build. CIPM can only install packages with the existing package lock, or npm lock also run install with npm5 later to generate. Okay, so did we get a package lock file? We did. So let's go ahead, go into actually stage it, commit it, sync it. One part is always being able to troubleshoot all of this live. Always love it when things don't go right. So let's take a look back here in actions. And if we go here into package lock, we'll see build. Now it's setting up the job. Okay, now it's working. All right, wait, something happened here. So let's take a look at what happened here. Connection refused. Should return. Okay, because there's tests in here. All right. So let's go ahead and see what test is broken. So test basics, 8,000, yep. And let's see what app.js is starting on, 8080. So there, our test worked, right? It's really one of the cool things that we can do is we can real-time troubleshoot. So let's change our test to 8080. And it should respond with hello world. So we'll just go ahead and we will hit plus. And because we're working on the same repository, what's going to be happening is the first build is going to continue creating the infrastructure. So new changes. We'll sync those new changes. And so our infrastructure is actually going to be built based on this main deploys. So it does everything in parallel, and you can see it set up the job by configuring my GitHub environment. And what it did here, we go to settings, secrets, is we got our environment variables for our GitHub secrets, so we could pass certain credentials across without having to do it over in the clear. So now what it's doing is it sets up the job, it applies the Terraform configuration. So it'll use the Azure provider to create the resources we require. So that's a resource group. That is our accounts we may need for our app service plan. And then it'll go ahead and deploy it. So we'll go over here to actions. Let's see, why didn't this build? All right, so it should say just hello world, and it says hello world, I'm making a change. All right, so let's fix that problem. So we'll go into app.js. We can see hello world, I'm making a change. So let's go back to VS Code. Like I said, it's fun to go ahead and find these problems in real time and fix them. So let's just go ahead, hello world. That's what the test says, right? It's just looking for hello world exclamation point. So we've updated it to just hello world exclamation point. Added. And now we'll commit our change that we staged here. And we will fix hello world. We'll sync that change. And I left a bunch of these mistakes in here, just basically to show you what a life of someone actually doing it all in real time is like. So we can see that main deploy is still going on. And that's because it's still building our original Terraform infrastructure. And so what we can do, see, here we are. It's still creating. It's going to take a few minutes. And then it'll do a post Terraform configuration apply. So let's go ahead and let's go over here into Azure. And let's look in resource groups. And here is our resource group and the environment that we've created. So here's our demo app. application insights, storage account, all the things that we actually wanted to create, our actual plan that we need. All right, so we'll go over here. You can see still creating. It's going to take a few minutes. So I've got one that's actually completed. Oh, let's see. We've got one that's actually completed here. And I will go into that really quick. We'll see. I believe it's RG Terraform. Nope. We'll just take a look at what's been created here. So we'll go into App Service. We'll go ahead and click this. And there is everything deployed on my application over here into this particular group of resources. It ends up being really easy and really quick to kind of create. You've got to wait for typical Azure stuff of, resource creation and eventually, the build of our application. So let's go back over here. There's something wrong with it. Let's take a look at the build. So the build worked, but the manage infrastructure, why did that not work? Because it's already applying it in the other sections. So we can see acquiring state lock because we've already got a running state. So a state file was added. If we go back here, we can see we've got our storage accounts. If we go back to resource right here, and if we go into the storage account, we look at containers, TF state, we've got a state file for Terraform that gets stored in a blob. So we didn't have to go and manually configure the state file. We didn't have to configure the blob. It's part of the NubesGen process. So let's go back to actions and see where we're at. So this is going to continue to deploy our infrastructure, and it'll go through the whole process of creating the resources required, applying the post Terraform configuration. And then after that's all finished, it'll go in and actually do the deploy. So let's take a look at this finished one. All right. Let's see. Here's a merge I did. Nope. Change. Here we are. So build and deploy. So we actually see that our Terraform configuration is created. Everything there for Azure set up for us. So modules that we needed for the different services, like a container registry, because this one I did a Docker configuration. You can see I've got a group, resource group, application service or app service, a container registry. Then it saves it all into state, some consumer keys and different things. Scroll to the bottom. And then what it did was it built a Docker image, because like I said, this one I did from Docker. The other one I did straight as a JavaScript. And you can see eventually builds my container, stores it in an Azure container registry. And then it gives me the URL to the app that was created because it's gone ahead and deployed it there. And there's our app. All right. So that's NubesGen in a nutshell. I tried to do this real fast for you. I hope it made sense. If you have more questions about what GitOps is or NubesGen, you can go over here to aka.ms/devops/NubesGen, and you can get more information on how you can use NubesGen yourself. All right. So that was it for me today. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon with another episode of AzureFunBytes. See ya.